Hi everyone, today I want to talk about trauma, specifically how autistic people and ADHDers may experience and be impacted by trauma. Despite having some pretty traumatic experiences in my life, I didn't really understand what trauma is, how it happens, or how it impacts people until quite recently. I genuinely thought that trauma only applied to incredibly rare and serious events. Like when I was a kid, we would watch the news and big serious things had happened, like plane crashes or kidnappings, and my family would talk about how those people would be impacted by those events for the rest of their lives. So I thought that that was what trauma was. I didn't realise that trauma refers to any situations that cause a person to feel physically or emotionally threatened. It's actually more accurate to say that trauma could be caused by any experience that makes you feel that way. It's the impact of the situation on an individual that defines the trauma response, rather than it being defined by particular types of events. So a situation could cause trauma for one person, but be manageable for another. Trauma can be caused by one-off events, for example, bereavement, accidents, or injuries. It can also be caused by ongoing stressors like chronic illness, being bullied, or a difficult living situation. Current research suggests that neurodivergent people might be at an increased risk of developing post-traumatic stress disorder. Sensory issues can make the world feel overwhelming and unsafe, leading to a stress response when we experience an uncomfortable sensory situation. Additionally, neurodivergent people are more likely to experience bullying or isolation, which are established causes of trauma. The sense of not belonging can lead us to mask or camouflage our neurodivergence, which can lead to us not feeling good enough as we are, and that is exhausting. Being constantly misunderstood and judged is traumatic. Neurodivergent people are also often especially sensitive or anxious, and that means that we could perceive a wider variety of experiences as traumatic, which fits with the idea that trauma is caused not by a particular experience, but by the individual's response to that experience. As neurodivergent people, since we tend to respond differently and to experience traumatic experiences more regularly, then it makes sense that we would be more vulnerable to experiencing the negative consequences of trauma. In addition, many of us are late diagnosed, so we're having these experiences without really knowing why, and that is traumatic. When we go through trauma, our brains react by going into survival mode and by directing all of its energy to surviving what it perceives as a threat. This is called the flight or fight response. The brain then releases dopamine, norepinephrine, and adrenaline so that you can respond to the threat. If the threat does not go away, then the amygdala, which is the part of the brain responsible for flight or fight, communicates with the hypothalamus and pituitary gland to release cortisol. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex consciously assesses the threat and either increases or calms down the flight or fight response. Whether the event passes or not, the impact has a longer-term effect on our brain. The amygdala can become over-responsive, causing hyperarousal, hypervigilance, and sleep disturbances. Hypervigilance can mean that we are on alert for perceived danger, leaving us feeling permanently on edge and unsettled. All this to say that people who are impacted by trauma are living in a state of high alert all the time. This can lead to many unwelcome symptoms, like difficulty concentrating, anxiety, anger, and mood swings. Guilt, sadness, low self-esteem, feeling disconnected, and disassociation. It can lead to developing mental health conditions such as anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. The impact of trauma can also lead to physical symptoms such as headaches, digestive symptoms, and fatigue. So what can we do when we realise that we're experiencing trauma and it's impacting our wellness now? The good news is that it's possible to recover from trauma with the right support and help. The first thing that we can do is seek professional advice, so I'd suggest a visit to your GP to ask for a referral for therapy. As far as I know, the two types of therapy generally offered to people struggling with trauma are cognitive behavioural therapy, which aims to help you change thinking patterns and behaviours, and eye movement desensitisation and reprogramming, which involves remembering the traumatic event in detail whilst making eye movements, usually by following the movements of your therapist's finger. Other methods might involve your therapist tapping their finger or playing a tone. It's not exactly clear how EMDR works, but it might help you change the way that you think about a traumatic experience. Your GP can also help you to look at medication options if they feel like this is appropriate and useful for you. You could look for peer support by finding a group either online or in person for people who are experiencing the effects of trauma. There are also lots of great resources out there in the form of books, podcasts and videos addressing trauma recovery, so it might be worth doing some research for yourself as well. Finally, I would absolutely recommend treating yourself with compassion and understanding. Understand that this is not your fault, and you don't need to feel guilty for the ways that you are feeling or the ways that you are behaving. Treat yourself kindly and do anything that you can to make yourself feel comfortable and safe. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to know more about life with autism, ADHD and disability, then you might consider subscribing to my channel. Also, don't forget to click my link tree to find out the ways that you can support me as a self-employed content creator. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.